Hello, and welcome to Sobercast. We provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast format. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into the virtual basket. Also, if you're a member of NA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, NAPOD. NAPOD features NA speakers and workshops in the same format as Sobercast. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for NAPOD, N-A-P-O-D, all one word, on any podcast player app, or go to napod.xyz if you'd like to listen online. Hope you enjoy the podcast and have a great day.
On behalf of Saturday Night Live at Pine Lake Speaker Meeting, please help me welcome tonight's speaker, Lorraine K from Lynnwood, Washington.
Hi everybody, my name's Lorraine and I am an alcoholic. I need to apologize to a lot of you that think Jeff was coming from Fargo. Unfortunately, I'm it, so I apologize. He couldn't make it. I want to thank the committee for asking me to come. Anything I can do for Alcoholics Anonymous is an honor and a privilege, and I know we all say that, but I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart, because when I got here, I did not want to do much. I just wanted to suck you guys dry and straighten the family out and we'd all be good. But that's not what happened. So my sobriety date is October 17th, 1990. I have a home group in Lynnwood. It's our primary purpose. We meet on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And it's an hour and 15-minute meeting. I have a sponsor and I sponsor. And fortunately, they sponsor too because they're sick of me nagging. So that makes me a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a check-in time. My sponsor lives in Florida, and I have a check-in time at 5:30 Monday morning. And I don't miss it. And if I'm going to miss it, I text her and just tell her I'm going to be late, because I need to be accountable to somebody. Because when I got here, I wasn't accountable to anybody. I wasn't accountable to the man I'd been living with, married, my children, my parents, or myself. You know, I'm living proof that you don't have to come from a disease of alcoholism as a child to be an alcoholic. My parents are not alcoholic. My sister is not alcoholic. I'm the token one in our family. Now, I'd like to say that was my children's childhood, but it isn't the truth. It isn't the truth. Far from it. And so I had a really good childhood. I mean, if you'd have met me when I was, 10, I would have told you I came from the worst family in town, because I just wanted that sympathy. I wanted you to, oh, baby, how bad is that? But, I had a good family. My parents gave me anything I wanted. And I thought I was a princess, and unfortunately for you guys, they let me think I was a princess. And so I go out in the world thinking I'm a princess, and I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think I'm a princess too. And those old guys, those crusty old guys, we've all got them in our home group. They told me I'm not a princess. And I learned the hard way through inventory that I really am not a princess. I had seen my mom get drunk when I don't know how old I was, about 12 maybe. And I saw the look of disgust on my dad's face. And she was drinking gin at the time, and I had this preconceived idea that my mom was a wimp. I wanted, she wasn't tough. I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be tough. And so the first time I'm sitting in a pub in London, I need to back up. Just had a thought. God reminded me. Okay, I need to tell you, just in case you lose me somewhere along the way, I was born and raised in England, hence the accent, but I got sober in Nashville. And the reason I tell you that is one time I was telling my story and this young newbie came up and she said, they talk like that in Nashville? Somewhere, the brain had left her. I know that feeling, right? It was somewhere and I had gone with her, so I just want to clarify that. But I'm sitting in this pub in London and I remember thinking I don't want to be a wimp like my mum, so I was going to drink gin. And I don't know whether it was the Rolling Stones or Rod Stewart or who was playing, but it was really loud. And I started drinking gin that night. And for the first time, I could breathe. I didn't know I was holding my breath. I'd held my breath all my life. I was full of fear. I was scared of walking into a room where there was people. I remember talking to my sister, who's 12 years older than me, about the Christmas parties we had. And she said, Lorraine, you always looked so confident and you just walked in there like you owned it. And she said, I felt like I wanted to throw up. And I said, well, the trick was to go through the kitchen, into the sunroom, find the bar, put your hand on the glass and breathe. And then you make your entrance. I didn't even have to have a slug of it. I just knew it was going to happen. And my poor sister suffered with this because she didn't have anything to drink. She didn't know how to do that. And so I'm sitting in this pub and I can breathe and I loved it. And I didn't throw up, so that made me not a wimp, right? And I meet this guy, and at 15 I'd graduated, and that is not to tell you that I'm intelligent at all. In England at the time, I don't know what it's like now, you reached 15 and they kicked you out. It didn't matter if you'd learned anything, they didn't hold you back, they didn't have a graduation, it was like bye. And so that was the real reason. And because I'm full of fear, I go and start working as an apprentice hairdresser for, guess what, an alcoholic. I didn't know that at the time, but she was. And part of my job was to go and buy her a bottle of booze every night. That was my training, and we drank there. But I met this guy, he asked me out, he was 20, and his reputation preceded him. And I'm full of fear. And I can't be this woman because I'm this frightened little girl inside here. And I said no. And for many years I told him that it was because he was too old. I never told him it was because I was so scared. And so I do what every girl does in London when you found the pubs and you can drink, you just keep drinking. And I start stealing money from my dad. He had a big bottle that he used to put, would be equivalent to your dimes, and he would save them. And every Wednesday I was broke. And I'd put a sheet down and I'd shake it real gently so he wouldn't hear it. And I'd take his money and I'd go and drink. And I wrecked cars when I was young. And that's what I did. I always seemed to be the designated drunk driver. And that followed me from my teens into my 20s to my marriage. Then it was when I was working construction. I mean, do I look like a construction worker? Then it was because I had less to lose than the others, so I was the designated drunk driver. Although I've never had a DUI, go figure, right? I don't know how that worked. And so I finally hook up with this guy again. I'm 20 and he's 25, and he asked me to get married, and I said, yeah, of course. He was the only one who ever had at that point, but that's not the reason I married him. And the thing was about him is he drank like I wanted to drink. He was a two-fisted slugger. And my sponsor calls him the barroom brawler. And I was fascinated. I come from a home where it was quiet. My dad did silent school like there wasn't anybody like him. I learned from the best. And my husband was very loud, his family was very loud, and they threw punches and they cussed, and I'm like, man, I've arrived. This is great, I loved it. But the problem with it is because I'm this scared little girl, I used to pick on, and please don't be offended if you're Irish and a Catholic, especially coming up on St. Paddy's Day, I would pick the biggest Irishman I could find in an English pub, and I'd tell him about, the Pope and the nuns and, and stir it all up. And these guys would have to defend their religion and their Pope and the nuns. And as soon as it got sort of a bit too much for me because I'm a wimp, I would shout, Alan! And he'd come running because he likes to fight, right? It was great. I loved it. I loved walking in those bars and they'd go, do you know whose wife that is? And I'd go, like I earned something, right? Like I'm the fighter and I'm this scared girl inside. And I stayed scared until I got to you guys. And so in his infinite wisdom and his alcoholism, he decides we need to immigrate to America because my sister's already done that. Many years beforehand, we got 2 kids and we arrived with $1,500. And we go to Yukon, Oklahoma. And coming from London, it was a I had never seen men in suits with cowboy hats and boots and a gun. It was like, I don't know about this. All I know is I kept saying, you cannot be the scrapper here. We're going to get shot. I know we're going to... My sister pulls up, this is in 1981, she pulls up in a powder blue big boat Cadillac. And Alan's in the front and his head doesn't move. He's just staring. There's tumbleweeds and red soil and it's like, and I said, what was you thinking? He's like, have we got enough money to get home? Because 2 days before we're ready to leave, my mom takes him aside and said, there ain't anybody in Yukon, Oklahoma like you. And he says, oh, I bet there is. He goes, she said, there's not. Yeah, there is. We found him. And so I start cutting hair. I go to a barber's, my sister's place where she used to go, and I do the interview, and I had been an at-home mom, so I had no clue what was going on in the hair business. But I can fake it until I made it, you know. I'm a good watcher. To this day, I'm a people watcher. See, I used to have to watch kids, how they behaved, because I was always in trouble. I was always running my mouth. And I would try to sit when they sat and speak quiet when they did. And then I'd watch my sister. And then I'd watch women in bars and at restaurants. And when they picked their drink up, I would drink mine. And I'd put it down and then I'd drink it when they drank it. But unfortunately, mine always seemed to empty and I need another one and I'd pick another woman. And that's how I did it. I watched and I watch you. I still watch you. And so we're here in Oklahoma and I get right to the door after the interview and she says, Lorraine, do you like beer? Now, I didn't drink beer. I'd gone from brandy to scotch to Bacardi. Didn't touch beer. But something back here said, you're going to love this job. And I loved that job. It was 3 hours of liquid lunches. I knew I was not going to get fired because the boss and I were best friends. And we cut hair. Drunk. And so, guys, I want to let you into a secret. When your barber's around your ears and her fingers are shaking, it's not because she's drunk too much coffee. Because I used to say that, oh, I've had 1 too many coffees. And they go, oh, okay, Lorraine. But something was happening there. I knew, I don't know about you guys, but I used to get these moments of clarity. I know what they are now. I didn't know what they were back then. Where God sort of gets in. Like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I would watch my sister. And like I say, she's 12 years older than me. And, you know, she came to me and said, you know, this is a really nice town. And I said, did you know you've got 7 bars on Main Street? Now, she'd lived in this one old town for about 12 years and said, no, I'd only been there a month. And she did not know there were 7. I counted them because I knew I might be visiting them, and I did. And so I go to these bars, and we're having liquid lunches, and I knew I wasn't going to get fired. And, you know, my boss was a cowgirl when I got there, but by the time I'd finished with her, she was the only punk rocker in this little one old town. You know, it was like crazy town. We'd gone from Western music to rocking out to anything. And it was between a liquor store and a Christian bookstore. you're getting it. I don't even have to say it, do I? But I will. We never went to the Christian bookstore. Wednesday night, we picked as our late night because the Christians in that little town, God love them, were in church, but the liquor store was open. And that's what we did. And that's where my kids came from school. And they would sit and watch us and we'd drink. But I'd have these moments of clarity. I'd be standing there with the old Dixie cup going, I bet my sister wouldn't do this. She's always my gauge, her and my sponsor. And it was one Christmas, and there was 5 of us women in this barber shop, and I got the vodka going on. I made this English punch, and it's full of vodka, and everybody loved it. And I look in the corner, and there's this girl that's just about getting married, and she's going to marry an attorney. And she's got all these plants and little bric-a-brac, and I'm like, yeah. And then I look at the middle one, and she's divorced, and she's looking for an attorney because she needs somebody to keep her, and she's got perfume and jewelry and all that stuff. And then we've got the token punk rocker in the corner here, and she's got money because they don't know what to do with her. And then we got my boss. Hers was there and mine was here. And I look, and I swear to you, it was stacked this high of boxes wrapped up in Christmas paper with bows on them of Budweiser and Coors, and the back of my bar there was with bottles of vodka and all the rest of it. And for a moment, I went, there's something wrong with this. Because I really want to be like her in the corner. And I take a slug and I go, nah, that was silly. Of course not. I don't want to be like her. I wanted to be like her. But I knew I couldn't be like her because I drank the way I drank. And every so often I would get these moments. And Alan moves and goes and works in Nashville. And I'm in Oklahoma. And one night I come to. And I've got 2 kids upstairs and they're 7 and 9. And I come to in the swimming pool. And I've got these beer cans just bobbing. And another moment they have no way of knowing where their dad is. There wasn't cell phones back then. They didn't know how to get hold of him if I'd have drowned. They didn't know how to get hold of my sister. They had no way. Grandparents are 5,000 miles away. But I take a slug. No, you're exaggerating. You're just being a drama queen again. And so Alan's in Nashville and he's doing what he's having to do, and I'm in Oklahoma doing what I'm having to do. And there wasn't a day that there wasn't drinking involved. And through inventory, I know today that it's not to shock you or because you've heard it, but I became a child abuser. I didn't only just slap them around, I verbally abused them, but worse yet, I spiritually abused them. They were seeking back then. They wanted to go to church. And because I'm an atheist, I wouldn't let them go. And so they would lie and tell me they were staying with this family when they were going with a Christian family that were going to take them to church on Sunday. See, my 2 kids were seeking. But I'm telling them, you got to believe like me and there is nothing. You're done. And so they're left with this mother that can't hold 2 days together without drinking. And I'm working all these hours and I'm making a lot of money. I mean, back in 1981, I'm making $1,000 cold cash. And it was coming in and it was going out. And it was coming in and it was coming out. And I'm here to tell you, I'm a real alcoholic. I didn't do drugs. So if you want to hear a drug story, I'm your wrong speaker because I just did alcohol. I was too scared because I'm too scared of it, right? Thank God I was too scared of it. And so Alan comes home every other weekend and then he decides we need to move and we're going to go to Nashville. And I said, okay. And so I up and I leave and I go, but I knew I couldn't cut hair anymore because I knew it was working in that barber shop. I knew it was the job that was making me drink. I had no clue about the disease of alcoholism. I did not know that I could find a solution because alcohol was my solution. Alcohol made me, what the men say, 6'2" and bulletproof. Except for I had somebody else who thought he was, and he picked up the pieces. And so we moved to Nashville, and I go over job site, and these guys are drinking over there. Well, this sounds like a really good job to me. So I become a construction worker. Not a very good one. In fact, up until 5 years ago, it was the only job I'd been fired from. He told me I was a discipline problem and I needed to go to the house. Because what would happen is I'm hungover and I've got to go to the job. So I would show up with donuts and coffee and all the guys with down tools. And we'd all sit around and visit. And he's, that's costing money, right? And so he sent me to the house. And what is happening on the outside looked really good. We was really the masters of looking good. We had the gear, we had the car, we had the money. We had the business. But what would happen is the door would close and the disease of alcoholism would rear its ugly head. And we became knockdown, drag-outs alcoholics. I've had a bloody nose, I've had black eyes, he's had ripped shirts, we've thrown furniture, we've done all of that. And the next morning we kiss and make up and we're not going to do it again. Well, he never said he wouldn't do it again. I did. I was forever going, no, I'm not going to do that again. But I did. And it went on and it went on and it went on. And for 10 solid years, I think it was about 10 solid years, I tried not to be what I was becoming. I just didn't want to be that. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't want to be that anymore. But I'm working on this job site and these guys drink and they just loved it. And I just went along with it. And every day I would stand in that bed, that bathroom. Today's the day you're going to quit, Lorraine. And I go, I bet I can. I bet I can. But you see, I have a brain that tells me a lie. And the lie is, Lorraine, you're going to drink like a lady. You're really going to drink like a lady. And here's the thing, guys. I was 15 years old and I'm drinking like a pig in a pub in London. And at 39, when I'm coming to you, it's still telling me, Lorraine, you're going to drink like a lady. I wouldn't know what that was if my life depended on it. I tried. I watched you in restaurants, lifting your glass and just taking a sip, and I thought I could. No, I slug it. Because I know today that when I take a sip of alcohol, the phenomenon of craving sets in and I can't get it in there quick enough. Put me on an IV and that's great. Alan said to me one day, he said, I think if we just put an IV in, you'd be happy, wouldn't you? I went, yeah. And save popping the cans, putting them in the tray, all that stuff. Come on. And so it's getting ugly. It's getting really ugly at home. It's getting, I don't know about you guys, but we did he'd pack his stuff and he'd go to a hotel, and then I'd realize that my financial person has left and I've sort of broke because he's taken the checkbook with him because he knows how bad I am with money. And I go beg and grovel and he comes back. And we're going to pretend to do this again. And we make it maybe 2-3 weeks. And one of us pulls a drunk above drunks and the other one gets knocked around and he leaves and it goes on. And this is the life we immigrated to. That's not what we came here for. We came here for the American dream. Right? That's what you tell us. That's what you told us in 81. The American dream, and we're knocking each other around and our kids are just coming unglued. And so one day I have to tell you that, I don't know, is there anybody here who answers the phones in a group? Nobody? You do? Thank you. Thank you for doing that. I've been hung up from the people in a group because I was so drunk I'd keep calling back and say, where did you say that meeting was? Click. They knew I'd keep calling. They just knew. They just know. But thank you for doing that. It's a great service. And so I go to this token Alcoholics Anonymous meeting to get him off my back, because Alan's perception is that I'm way worse than he is. And the truth of the matter is, I'm just going to say this to the women in the room for right now, but you guys can think about it. Have you ever looked, I know we all see the news on our phones, but when we got newspapers, right, and the cartoons of the drunks were never women. They were always men, and they were always funny. Us women are not funny. We're not cute. If we go in the bathroom and what we think we look like goes, wow. I didn't look like this when I left home. I mean, hair's like, all over the place. Good God. Lipstick. I mean, I can put lipstick on without a mirror, but back then it was, it was a mess. And Alan was constantly telling me, you are a real mess. And I'm like, not such a peach yourself. And so I make this token AA meeting, and like I said, ladies, get yourself a crusty old guy. You've got one in your home group. I make the women I sponsor get a crusty old guy, because they don't care about my little feelings. They don't care how I think my life's going. They just want me to stay sober. And I walked into the wrong meeting that night because he was there. And his name's Frank Donnelly, and I can use his last name because he's in the big meeting in the sky now. And at the end of the meeting, I'm rummaging. We can tell when you're new because we don't know we pray, right? So we're rummaging in our purse like we got somewhere really important to go. Nobody's talking to us. We haven't got a home, but we're rummaging in our purse. And I'm doing that, and they're all getting in the circle, and he comes up and he starts poking. Get the women's numbers. Now, he doesn't know that I'm a princess. So I'm flicking his hand, like, phew. And he's just get these women's numbers. They'll save your life. And I look across the room, and there's this woman. She's got this big red hair, mini skirt, jean jacket, collar up, big dangly earrings. I thought, she's going to be fun. She wasn't. I am eternally grateful she was not my sponsor. She was my grand sponsor, which was bad enough, because she thought she sponsored me at one point. But so I got her number, and I did what we do. I didn't call. Woo! I've come to my senses. I can control my drinking. I'm going to be good. And I only remembered this the other day. I went to, I think, a treatment facility to get evaluated. And the only reason I remember this is because I sponsor a woman in Nashville, and she was talking about the meetings there. And I remember this girl going, well, you're a low-bottom drunk, and I hope I see you in meetings. And I went, really? But previously, I had gone to the job site. I wanted to make this big demonstration of what I was doing. I've got this big old truck, and he's standing on the curb, and I spin the wheels because I'm going to get tested. And I'm going to come back, and I'm going to be okay, but you will not. I guarantee you. He never went to get tested, by the way. So I don't call her. And it starts all over again. And I can't put months. I made 2 attempts, and I did 5 months, both times. But I could never get any further than that. And they were getting nearer and closer together. And we've all seen that with people that come back after some time of sobriety, and then they relapse at the times get closer together. And that's what was happening to me. And on October 16th, 1990, I stood in my bathroom and I got tears, and I don't really know what I did. I'm a blackout drinker at this time. And I think it looked by the state of the living room that some furniture had been thrown, and I'm not sure if it was me or him, but he's gone. He's gone to work, and the kids, I don't know how they got to school. And I'm like, today's the day. This is it. This is it, Lorraine. You cannot. And with everything in my body, everything in my power that I thought I had at that time, I did not want to drink. And I made it to noon. And my brain said, you know, girl, I bet you could drink like a lady. And I went, you think? Because I really was beginning to doubt that I could do what my brain was telling me to do. So I go over job site, and I always got my backup boy, and I said, you want to go for a beer and a burger? Of course an alcoholic's going to say yeah. So he said, yeah, and we went, and I'm off and running. And I go back to the house, and I carry on. And on October 17th, 1990, I wake up, and one more time, the closet is bare. I knew it was business. Golf clubs are gone. I crawled across, looked in his nightstand, the passport had gone, and I knew he meant business. I don't know how the kids got to school again. And I'm laying in that, what they talk about in the big book, those 4 horsemen, that fear, bewilderment, terror. How the hell did this happen again? Not why did it, how did it happen again? When I'm crying, knowing I was going to stop drinking the day before. And so I crawled over the bed and I go to my nightstand, and 18 months later, I'm telling you, I'd opened that nightstand and there laid the schedule book. Pink one, I still got it, with her number. And I didn't call her straight away because, you know, just in case. I had to have a ton of cigarettes and a lot of coffee. And I sat there and then I called her. And she said, this is where you're going. I'm not going to be there. But when the meeting's over, you just sit tight. And for the first time in my life, I'm 39 years old. My birthday, my other birthday, is 6 days before my AA birthday. So I've just turned 39. I said, yes, ma'am. I never said yes, ma'am, to my parents, to anybody at school, Alan, the kids, anybody. My bosses, it didn't matter. I knew that day, I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but I knew something monumental was going to happen. I knew something big was going to happen, and I didn't know what it was going to be, but I just knew. And so I got in my big truck because I wanted to impress him. I was trying to, she said, have you got any money? And I was, yeah, I got $300 in my billfold. In fact, the electric or the phone was getting disconnected that day. I don't know which it was. That's why I had money. Do you have a vehicle? And I'm trying to tell her it's a 150 engine. And she goes, I don't care. You got a vehicle? Yes, get going. And so I go to this place called 202 right across the street from Vanderbilt. And I walk in and I can hear these people laughing, and that was more than I could handle. And I sat down. And see, I'm an atheist, and from the moment I sat down, I could breathe. I could breathe again like I'd had that first drink. And if you're new and that hasn't happened, stay, because it's going to happen. You're going to walk in a meeting. I don't care if it's a year or 10 years from now. You're going to walk in a meeting and go, oh, I got it. I just happened to get it that day because I couldn't do any more. And so I'm in this meeting and I'm in love with them, and they're telling their stories. And I thought it was anonymous. She must have called them about me because they're talking about stuff I've done. I don't know how that happened. And so they start talking about God. And guys, I came in with the mouth of a construction worker. There ain't a word I haven't used on man, woman, or child. Except for in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Fingers crossed, God, I won't do it tonight. When I say that, I'm always like, oh no, not now. And so they use God and I'm saying the F word, and they say God and up here I'm saying, and I'm like, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. But they loved it, the way they talked about it, or the way they loved Alcoholics Anonymous. And so the meeting ends and we do this, in Nashville they give out coins at the end of the meeting, and they give out 6 months, 30 days and a white chip, which is the surrender chip. And they ask you, do you want a white chip to start this way of life one day at a time? And I'm where you were sitting. And I sort of waited to see if anybody else was going to do it, because I'm like, I don't want to be the only kid, because I'm scared. And somehow God went, and I walked up and I took that coin and I sat back down. And at the end of the meeting, I've got 30 minutes, I think she said, to wait for her. Our big book talks about making the approach. It doesn't say I'm going to get on my soapbox, guys, I'm sorry, but I've got to do it for 2 minutes. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous tells me that I make the approach, that I don't sit here and raise my hand and tell you I'll sponsor you, but I walk out of the door before you've even taken a breath. It says, I think it's 16 times, Emily's a grandbaby of mine, and her sponsor got so sick of me saying it, she counted how many times it's in the big book. It's either 16 or 18 times. I think it's pretty important that we make the approach to the new guys. Somebody made that approach to me, and that woman's been my best friend for 26 years. Because I'd love to tell you that I was so willing I would have sat there and waited for Sandy, but I don't know that I would. When they all went to coffee or wherever they went, I didn't want to sit in that room on my own, and my head would be telling me I'm going to drink like a lady. But she didn't give me a chance for all that. She just sat down in front of me. And she starts sharing her experience, strength, and hope, and all I can hear is wah, 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 wah. And I can say this because I've told her that. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, she needs a haircut. So when I approach new women and they got that glazed look, I know they're thinking, she's got to be old. Look at the color of her hair. My mother's younger than her. So don't worry about it. And she sat there with me until Sandy showed up. And Sandy stood in the doorway. She said, Lorraine, I said, yeah, you with me. And I said, yes, ma'am, for the second time in my life. I told you something monumental was going to go on. And she takes me in this room. And there he is, the crusty old guy, with his red suspenders. And he happened to be Sandy's sponsor. And Sandy happened to be the woman I was given my first day. She looked like Barney. She was dressed in purple. She had purple shoes. You name it, purple bow. She's got this Tennessee accent. And I've got this. So we stayed together because we didn't understand each other, she said. And at some point, I'd say, I don't understand what you're saying. Blame it on her accent. I just didn't want to do the work, really, at that point. And what they did is they threw me a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and this group of people read it to me. See, when they were in a meeting, because I've told you, I'm a people watcher. I watched them, and for years, up until the last 3 weeks, I used to say they didn't talk in meetings because they respected each other. And that is the truth, they did. But guys, they wanted me to hear the message. See, if they're talking, I can't hear what you're saying over here. And this is the message I need to hear. Because God's making me do this, but I can hear him over here. They wanted me to hear the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, not anything else. I learned from these guys how to act in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't talk, and God help you if you're sitting next to me, because I will shush you. And hopefully the girls I sponsor are starting to shush too. They all sort of sit there like this and look at me. Like, are you going to do it? And I go, no, your turn. Torture's been passed. Because the new guy, the new woman needs to hear the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, not me talking about the price of fish. Right? And so these guys, that crusty old guy, God love him. There was a time he chopped this guy's legs off in a meeting, and I was, how dare he? I thought it was great at first, and then I got all indignant. And I get home, and I get on the phone to her, and I said, he's such a, And she said, yes, he is. Yes, he is. And she goes, you know what his problem is? He's an egomaniac. And I said, that's it. That's what his problem is. Now, I got 3 months like I know what I'm talking about. I didn't even know what an egomaniac was. It just didn't sound good. And she said, do you know why Frank sponsors Sandy? And I said, no. Well, Sandy's an egomaniac. Really? Okay. Lorraine, do you know why Sandy sponsors me? I'm slow, but I ain't that slow. I sort of knew where this was leading. Oh, okay. All right, got it, yeah. He loved Alcoholics Anonymous enough to be disliked in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. He cared about us. He cared about us. When I was 3 years sober, because, at 3 you got it going on, and, it's all good. And I'm sitting in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the crusty old guy isn't there, thank God. And my sponsor had started going somewhere else, and there's a guy there. And he's pretty cute. And my brain, because now I believe the lies that he's telling me again, that's what you need, Lorraine, is a guy in Alcoholics Anonymous. See, my guy's still drinking. So that's what I need. Now, if Alan was your speaker, he would tell you that he left. But being as he's not, I kicked him out. It separates the men from the women, that bit, I tell you. We spoke somewhere, and this kid, Alan was sitting here, he got up and crossed and sat behind him because he wanted to be on Alan's side. And so we've come to mutual ground that I made his life misery. Absolute misery. To the point that he left. And it was okay. I trade in the soccer van and I get a 2-seater T-Bird and I've got it going on. And I go back to that meeting and that guy comes in and he's, really? The haircut's not right. He's wearing the wrong socks with the shoes. In fact, he's not even cute. And all this is going on unbeknownst to my sponsor, because I didn't want to call her and tell her what I was about to do, because she would have made me do what all good sponsors do. Get the paper and pen out. Let's do inventory. Let's see what you're doing. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I was sick of doing me. I wanted to blame him. God, he's the one drinking, right? And it was okay for a little while. And I'm standing in my living room one Sunday afternoon, and the desire for me to drink left me the very first meeting. And that isn't because I'm special or chosen. I heard somebody say that we are the chosen ones in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't want to ever class myself as chosen. I think God knew I was a wimp and couldn't take it. And so I didn't think about a drink. But the pain was so horrendous that what I thought about was how quick would a bullet go through. And I see I'm here in untreated alcoholism. And so I have to do what I had been taught to do, and I get on the phone and I call her. And she said, "So, Lorraine, how's your heart feel?" Like it's going to explode. "How does your chest feel?" Like I got a 1,500-pound weight on it. And she says, "Good. Because it means you're sober. It means you're feeling. And it means we're going to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And oh, by the way, Lorraine, you're going to tell them exactly what you've been doing." is he going to be there? Is what I wanted to say to her, because I didn't want to tell him. I didn't want to tell that crusty old guy. And so I had to go and make an amends to Alan. Tell him I didn't want a divorce. I didn't want a divorce, but I didn't want to tell him didn't want a divorce. I'm the princess still. I still have these moments of grandeur sometimes. And so we get back together again, and he looks at me and he goes, well, that's fine and dandy, Lorraine, but I want to go to Seattle. What? And so we moved to Seattle, and I'm coming up on 5 years. And I've lost it. I go and I fought it for a long time, and I called her and I'm whining, I don't want to move. And she said, you got to write inventory on this, and you have 2 hours. And I wrote inventory, and I said, I'm done. I've written. And she said, I can't hear it. I just can't hear this. And I've got tears streaming. And she said, I know you're crying. Because I cried when my sponsor told me she couldn't listen to it. And the reason I know today why she couldn't listen to it is because she was too emotionally involved and she didn't want me to go. And so she did what a good AA member does. She said, call Frank. Are you kidding me? So I called my best friend, who never cusses. Never has cussed in 26 years. Marge, I've got to do an inventory with Frank. And she goes, and I went, it's that bad? And she goes, not me, man, I wouldn't be doing it. And I'm like, oh. So I thought, okay, it's 2:00. He's under the bridge trying to find a drunk or a troll in the hospitals. That's what he does on his day off because he's retired and bored. And I called the house and I said, and he answers. And I went, oh, hey, Frank, how you doing? He said, I'm doing fine, baby. How you doing? I said, Frank, I've got an inventory I need to talk to you about. And I said, no rush. You know, I know you're a busy guy. I know you sponsor half of Nashville. Tomorrow at the club, 1:00. Frank, you know, there's no need to. 1:00, I said. Yes, sir, I'll be there. And I go in this little room that we used to do. They read the big book to me, and he's sitting there. He's still got his old red suspenders. And he's got his feet up on the table, and I'm reading the inventory, and all of a sudden he puts his hand on me. And he says, baby girl, do you think there's not going to be a Frank in Seattle? And the dam broke, and I said, yeah, Frank. He said, baby girl, he's there. He just doesn't know you're coming. But he's waiting for you, and he doesn't know who you are. And I said, okay. And I was free. I was free to move, and I was free to come to you. And I didn't come to a meeting for 6 weeks. It's the longest I've ever gone without going to a meeting because I didn't want you to know where we were living. We were living in a flea bit hotel on Highway 99. I didn't stay in there when I was drinking because I'm the princess. This was a dump. Let me tell you, it was a dump. And I didn't want you guys to know because my ego is rebuilding itself. And my son looks at me and he says, you need some drugs. Now, I don't do drugs, right? And I look at my husband and he's like, and the baby girl says, you need a meeting. And I'm looking at them all and they're like, so I said, okay. So I come to you. And at the end of the meeting, I stood up and I said, I'm the new kid on the block. And man, I need numbers and I don't care if it's men. I need you guys. And I knew I needed women to sponsor. And the next week I walked up to a woman. I've never done it since. I walked up to her. I said, Kelly, you got a sponsor? She said, no. I said, I'm it. And she was, I don't know who was more shocked, me or her. And we did the deal. We did the deal. I read the big books of Alcoholics Anonymous to the women I sponsor, and they read the book to the women they sponsor, and Read the book, don't you? To the women she sponsors now. Alcoholics Anonymous has changed me from this frightened little girl who is selfish and self-centered to somewhat not as selfish and self-centered. And I'm not the princess. So I want to tell you some of the great events that's happened in 26 years. I need you to know that I should have started with this, but God didn't see fit, but now he does. Sometimes when we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, we get all the goodies and then the goodies go. I don't ever want anybody to think that I got it going on. Because 7 years ago, Alan was diagnosed with bladder cancer. He's free now. He's been free for 2 years. We've lost our dream house. We filed bankruptcy. Life has been in session. Just because I get sober doesn't mean all that bad stuff goes away. Because it doesn't. I've got women that are dealing with cancer. I've had them divorced. I've had them lose jobs. The difference is we just don't have to drink over it today. So I don't want anybody to ever think that, somebody who speaks has got it all going on, because I've sat in the chair going, that will never happen for me. It'll never happen for me. So, when I was 11 years sober, my baby boy, who was 26 and 6'2" and cute as a button, actually got 13 stepped in Alcoholics Anonymous at the gratitude banquet, and he wasn't even sober. He thought it was cool. I was sponsoring the girl at the time. She didn't know it was my son until after. Anyway, so when I was 11 years sober, my baby boy came to me and said, Mom, I need you to take me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I took him to Jaywalkers. And he found his first sponsor there. And he has 14 years now. And thank God Mum didn't have anything to do with that. God did God. When I was 13 and a half years sober, my soulmate came to you. My fighting partner. My drinking partner. He was 13 step too, until they found out who his wife was, and then it was like, whoops. He thought it was great. He said, the women are so nice. Like, really? Are you kidding me? And so now he's sober. And then when I was 17 years sober, my baby girl, who's 26, was 26 then, said, I think I'm alcoholic like me. Well, I don't know about that. Because she was not a happy girl being one of us, I can assure you. She was the hoodie, crossed-armed in the back, just cussing up a storm. And all the women I sponsored would be looking at me like, we don't do this. I'm not her sponsor. It's great. It's great. So then Jamie marries Rachel, and she's in the program. And she's sober. And so we're all sober, by the grace of God. And it's not because we've done anything special or we're the chosen ones. It's just, we just do the deal. I tell the women that call me that have kids that are drinking and using that as long as they're breathing in and out, there's hope. There's always hope. I have a new title. Carol's going to love this. I'm a grandma. Yes, I'll take all the credit for that. He's the cutest baby in the world. And I have left my home group because his mother has needed me to go and help. I've never done that before. I said I never would, but this baby boy gives me license to go do it. Is there anybody that's new here, like in their 30 days? There's no newcomer. 1, 2. I hope the men in this room approach you. I hope they do. Stay with us long enough for them to show you what Alcoholics Anonymous can do. It is magical, absolute magical. I want to thank the committee again. I want to thank you guys. Thank you for my life, because I could never repay Alcoholics Anonymous what they've done for me. So thank you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.